In this video, I'm going to illustrate how to construct a quantification report from data that have been saved from a sample into different VAMAS files, all of which need processing in an identical way, and then a report generated. And the way I'm going to do this is to make use of the propagate and match option, and this also includes not just propagation but an option for generating a quantification report. And to construct the necessary quantification items, I'm going to make use of data that have been prepared with a peak model and regions suitable for the analysis of these data files. So the first thing I need to do is open the data files. Now these data files have been measured from a K-alpha, a Thermo K-alpha, and the data are saved in a directory structure. They have been previously converted to the VAMAS format, and these VAMAS files are buried beneath this directory structure. So here we see one of the VAMAS files, and this was constructed from AVG files that you see within the directory below. So rather than having to go through the directory structure and picking out these VAMAS files, there is an option when converting the VAMAS files from the Thermo format where you can open the files that are buried beneath the folder that we see here. And that is, if I enter the filter .oth, that's open Thermo, meaning open the VAMAS files from the Thermo data structure, or the file structure rather, then when I press open, it tells me that it's found a number of directories that contain the Thermo exported data, and corresponding to these .avg files there are VAMAS files, and there are 5 of them. So that's exactly what I thought was going to happen, and I'm happy with this, so I'll say yes, and they all open. Now we can see they're all open if we cascade these VAMAS files in the windows, and we have the data file that contains the processing information here, and each one of these files, while they contain more data than the process data, each one includes the same data with the same element transition field. So if I select these data and then overlay them in the active tile, so I have all my processing information in the display tile, I can make a selection, and I say select all matching blocks, and we can see that what has occurred is that in each one of these files the VAMAS blocks corresponding to the aluminium, the carbon and the oxygen have all been selected, and this allows me to use the information in the active tile, namely these 3 VAMAS blocks with the processing overlaid. I can then use this propagate and match option on the toolbar. I want to propagate regions and components, and I need to auto fit because the different files may contain different proportions of the aluminium oxide and metal that are being extracted using a peak model. And then I also have the option to choose a form of quantification. It's currently set to none, but because my files contain both regions and components that I would like to include in the quantification report, I'm going to say combined. So this means both regions and components will be used in the quantification. If I just wanted regions, I would have to select this radio button, just components, the components button, but because the data contains quantification items from both regions and components, I'm using combined. So now I'm in a position where if I say OK, the source is coming from the aluminium 2P, carbon 1s and oxygen 1s as selected here. Now there's one problem here, and that is because I'm going to construct a report, it will also construct a report for my process data, and I don't really want that. So before I say OK on that, I'm going to hold the control key down and deselect the VAMAS blocks in my process data file before then performing the same selection as I had previously. So regions, components, auto fit, combine, just verify that all my files are still selected. I see all the different files here under the file name, and I can say OK. So it's giving me a warning, and the warning is because perhaps you don't want to propagate when you're generating a report. In fact, typically you would propagate, then inspect, and then generate a report. So this is reminding you that you're doing quite an expensive operation in terms of propagating a lot of processing to a lot of files. We understand that is what we want, so we'll just say yes. And then off it goes, and it does the propagation and creates a report file. So this now is a quantification report that has combined all the information from each one of these files. As you can see here, that's the one for 200 EV, and there's 500. And if I go down, you can see that each one of the files that I loaded is now representative in this report. So we can copy these and place them in a spreadsheet, and we now can use that data as we like.